Have you been able to make peace with your past? Have you been able to let go of the mistakes you've made in your life? I really believe this is a key part of achieving not only contentment in our lives, but also being able to really truly live in the moment and and become our own best friend as a result. So this is a process which is simple in concept, but not necessarily easy to do. So we're going to talk about what that takes today. But first, I want to talk about all the stress we're dealing with in the world today and all the stress we're dealing with in our own lives. So whether you're dealing with making peace with your past or other issues in your life, it can create a lot of anxiety. We live in stressful times. And as you know, if you've watched my videos, I've dealt with anxiety much of my adult life. And there have been times like now when I've turned to therapy to help me through that anxiety. I'm currently working with BetterHelp, who is the sponsor of today's video. BetterHelp is on a mission to make therapy easier. They can connect you with a licensed therapist whom you can meet with online in the comfort of your own home. When I went to the BetterHelp website, the process could not have been easier. Fill out a questionnaire which is designed to match you with just the right therapist. You can indicate your preferences, including age and gender, for your therapist. I was matched in just a couple of hours, although in some cases it can take up to a couple of days. In my case, within a few days, I had my first session with my therapist. One of the best features of BetterHelp is that if the therapist isn't the right fit for you, you can easily switch until you find somebody with whom you can better connect. I know how important that is. As a former therapist myself, I know it's really important to find just the right therapist. On BetterHelp, you can communicate with your therapist through video or phone sessions or even messaging. It is very convenient. So if you're struggling and think you might benefit from a therapy session, click on the link in the description below or go to betterhelp.com/eldergal to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Again, thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. So in making peace with our past, I just want to let you know it is a process. And while it is a simple concept, it's not always easy to do, and it takes time. And one of the things it also takes is a lot of self-awareness. You have to be willing to look yourself in the psychological mirror and really own up to what you've done in your life. And that doesn't mean beating yourself up. In fact, quite the opposite. It just means acknowledging, like saying, I blew this. It's about saying, I made a mistake, or I made several mistakes, and just owning it. Because as long as you're in denial about doing anything wrong, people love to blame other people for what they themselves have done wrong. And as long as you do that, you're never going to make peace with your past. It requires brutal honesty on your part, but that doesn't mean blaming yourself. That doesn't mean, wallowing in hatred for yourself. Not at all. In fact, quite the opposite. You really need to do this in a gentle way, in an honest way, but in a gentle way. That if you've watched my channel at all before, you know that I've made several large mistakes in my life, and I've had to make peace with those. Probably the largest mistakes I've made have been around my relationship with my son. It's also been around past relationships, and it's certainly been about my relationship with money. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that one right now, how I made peace with that, because the relationship with money was lifelong. It was a dysfunctional relationship with money that really started when I was still a child. And I really just never learned to have a healthy respect for money. You have to respect money and you have to respect yourself and put those two things together, basically. Well, I never really had a respect for money. I probably didn't have that much respect for myself at times in my life, too. And so that spelled disaster. And it took me a long time. For someone like me who's relatively book smart, boy, I was a stupid person about money. And I am the first to admit it. But I don't beat myself up about it. I just realized that for me, the journey to understanding how to deal with money took longer And it was more painful than maybe a lot of other people have to go through. The good news is I did make peace with it, and I did learn from it, and I did turn it around, and I have turned it around. So I have a completely different perspective on money and my relationship to money than I ever had. You know, I did a podcast the other day on someone's finance channel, and I was discussing this with her, and I realized that, wow, you know, the reason I know I have a different relationship with money is that when I was even in my 20s, and this is long before gambling years, but in my 20s, I was one of those people that money burnt a hole in my pocket. You know, if I had 20 extra dollars, I found a way to spend that within a couple of days. And now it's the exact opposite. Now I'm unhappy when I have to spend, and I have to have extra money. Like if I don't have extra money in my savings account, or I don't have extra money in my wallet, I feel anxious about that. So it's a complete 180 from how it was 30, 40 years ago even. So you can turn things around, but the first thing you have to do is make peace with it. And I had to do that over the last probably 7, 8 years. I had to make peace with all the mistakes I made with money. And that meant being honest about it, being real about it, but not beating myself up. By realizing that that this was my Achilles heel, that this was something that I found really hard to deal with and understand. And so if you're gentle and loving with yourself about it, it's not as hard to make peace with your past. So whatever it is, whether it's like me, bad relationships, or you messed up the relationships with your children or your parents or other family members, or it's about money or about jobs, or it could be about anything that you've done in your life that you feel like you have to make peace with. I encourage you to start now. Don't put this off, and don't wait until you're too old to even benefit from that making peace with it. Because, you know, when you make peace with something, not only do you like yourself better, but you avert further disaster. You don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. You know, there's a lot of phrases that relate to that. I remember the quote from Maya Angelou that's, when you know better, you do better. Yeah. And that applies to a lot of things in life. When you know better, you do better. And so it may take you a long time, like it did me, to know better about certain things. You may be able to do it relatively quickly. But I encourage you to do it because it makes the rest of your life a lot more peaceful. It makes you more content with yourself. It makes you even happy with yourself. It does so much good to you in your life to make peace with whatever you regret in your past, whatever mistakes you made, and then move forward. You know, I like to say keep moving forward. Well, yeah, it's about moving forward and moving past it and not making those same mistakes again. So I hope this has been a little pep talk for you today. I hope that it helps in some way. It's not an easy thing to own up to things we've done. I know that firsthand several times over. But it is the only way to heal. It's the only way to heal. You have to be real with yourself. And I hope that if there's something else in your life you need to make peace with, I hope you can work on that and do that. And I know that anyone is capable of it. You just have to dig deep and move through it. So until next time, be well, be kind, keep moving forward, and take care. Bye.